Welcome to the show's Side Notes. I'm your host, Reginald Argue. I was at the CNE today here in Toronto for the 92nd Annual Warriors Day Parade, where I was able to talk to a fellow United Nations Peacekeeping veteran, along with the Minister of Veterans Affairs. Stay tuned for the interviews, and thank you so much for listening. I'm here at the Warrior Day Parade in CNE in Toronto, standing here with the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Julian Fantino. Julian, first question I have to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about your background prior to become Minister of Veterans Affairs?
Well, I did serve in different portfolios with the government in seniors issues, international cooperation, and as well a stint with Department of National Defense. But prior to that, I served in public service, some 40 years in law enforcement, so I've had, I think, a very good appreciation for the relationship between the military, the veterans certainly, and policing. It sort of seems to have the same culture and the same drive and commitment to duty and all of that, so I feel quite at home in this ministry.
And what programs are available for veterans right now? I know though the one about the helmets to hard hats. What other programs are coming online shortly for upcoming the veterans?
Well, we're looking at the whole issue of the charter, the kinds of improvements that can be made. Obviously, striving to be more efficient, more effective, and more able to help our veterans as they transition from military service to civilian life. So, looking for partnerships, strategic partnerships that can help us do that. Helmets to hard hats is one example, but there are others. And we need to work with the corporate sector as we do, but we need to amplify that so as we can truly transition our veterans from active military service into gainful employment and quality of life in the civilian world.
And one question I have to ask you, because I went through homelessness myself, being a veteran. I'm a big supporter of Vets Canada. What kind of a collaboration are you doing with Vets Canada and the Legion of that to help address the homeless issue? I think here in Toronto, they recently pointed out there's something like about 16 or 17% of the homeless that are veterans.
Yeah, well, one veteran who is homeless is one veteran too many who is homeless. So in essence, we're going to have to look at that whole aspect. There's been a lot of work done in that area. There's quite a lot of work being done with municipalities and organizations as we speak. But certainly we have to ramp up our efforts in that regard. And as I learn more and more about what we are in fact doing and what the issues, the challenges are, it's my intent to embrace as many partners and as many organizations as who are focused on veterans issues and work with them to do what we can in the best possible fashion to support and sustain our veterans.
Last question I have to ask you, what were some of the stories that other veterans have shared with you, one that really stands out in your mind?
Well, I just came back from commemoration of Operation Husky in Italy. 70 years ago, 25,000 Canadian troops landed on Italian shore. I also just came back from the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the armistice and the signing of the armistice in South Korea, and having networked with the veterans, those who fought in those conflicts, those campaigns. The thing that really has hit home with me is the sacrifice that those people have made, and obviously their families as well, in believing as they did to do what they could in order to achieve freedom, democracy, respect for human rights, the rule of law, and the kinds of things that we in a free and democratic society enjoy, and especially here in Canada. We're so blessed by the kind of things that they did to achieve that very altruistic purpose, and that is to basically serve humankind in the best possible fashion. And the thing that has impacted me the most is those that didn't come home.
And finally, I have one last question for you too. The subject of PTSD, is Veterans Affairs going to be addressing? I know there's an awful lot of young veterans are suffering from, even veterans from the United Nations peacekeeping time that when I was in, they're now suffering with PTSD.
Well, that's not a new thing that we hope to do. There's a lot of work being done in that particular area as we speak. Obviously, there's always room for improvement in everything that one does. So we're open to any new and innovative and helpful things that can be done that will in fact address that particular issue. You know, like I come out of a police world where that is also an issue, and what I can tell you is that a lot of work has been done, and we will continue doing that work because it is something that has to be dealt with, and we have to recognize that it doesn't only affect the individual, but it also affects their family, and certainly it leads to some very difficult circumstances as time goes on. So it's an issue that we need to keep working on.
Well, thank you very much for your time,
Great
Minister.
pleasure. Thank you. And congratulations to you for having, if you will, embraced the challenges of life as well as you have, and how you're contributing and making such a meaningful difference. And that's really very, very inspirational. So I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
E. Standing here with a gentleman. First of all, I'd like you to introduce your group that you're a member of and give a brief history.
Yes, I'm the Public Relations Officer for the Cpl Albert Storm CD Niagara Chapter of the Canadian Association of Veterans in United Nations Peacekeeping.
And can you tell us a little bit about some UN tours that you've been on yourself? I noticed there's 3 medals right there.
Yes, well, the medals that I have on my chest now are from Cyprus, which is the middle one. The one before it to the left is the CPSM, which is the Canadian Service Peacekeeping Medal. And the other one is the QDHM, which I was just awarded in November.
And a little history, you were telling me right before the interview how you became named after Corporal Storm. Can you give us a little bit of history about that?
Sure. We are an offshoot from the Cortland chapter of our association, and we had enough people to form it, and we had to come up with a name. And the name that we chose was the first casualty in Afghanistan from the Niagara region, which is Cpl Albert Storm, who was born in Fort Erie and lived in Niagara Falls.
And briefly, can you tell people that are United Nations veterans like myself who want to join your group, is there a website out there that people can go to?
Oh, there definitely is. We have cambup.org, I believe, is the main headquarters in Ottawa. And our chapter has our own website, which is unvets.org. And once you get to the page, you'll be able to see that there's about 4 or 5 other chapters that you can get to check them out, as well as other chapters from across Canada, from Vancouver to St. John's.
And there's also, I know there's a park named after Corporal Storm. Are there any other things that named after him in his legacy?
Right now, I'm not aware of any. But we are working very hard to make sure that there are plaques put up in memorial tribute to Corporal Storm in various statues, or not statues, what do you call them?
Memorials.
Memorial parks, you know, they're dedicated to the veterans.
Well, do you have any final words you'd like to share in closing?
Well, all I can say is that we are about 900 strong across the nation. And we'd like to get our chapter from the Niagara region a little bit stronger. So if there's anybody out there who is a UN vet, they're most welcome to come and sign up with the Cpl Albert Storm CD Niagara chapter of Campa.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.